Now let's go and create the controller and handle the API logic. Now for us to do that one, you need to be on your terminal here. So let me go ahead and clear this. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to type this command, which is php artisan make, and then controller, and then here we're going to have a folder, and this folder is going to be API, and then /book, and then that is the name of the controller, which is BookController. And then here I'm going to have a flag, which is going to be resource. And basically resource basically means that here we're going to have the CRUD resource, that is the create, read, update, delete, and so forth. So I'm going to hit enter like that, and what it's going to do is going to create a folder which is called API, and then inside this folder we're going to have our BookController, and what you're going to have is the resource is going to generate for us index, create, store, show, edit, update, destroy, like that. So that's what the resource does. So so we can now begin updating our controller, and we are going to update it as follows. So the first thing we're going to start here, let's just begin with the index. So the index here is going to return for us the book model, and book model is going to be all. What does this mean? This means that when you come to your API here, when we hit get here and we append this API /books, the URL, so what we're going to happen, of course, you know this one, we're going to expect we expect to see all the books. So basically this is what it is doing. It is calling the model, which is book.php, and then this one here. So this is the model here. We're going to also to update it, and then we're going to return all the books. Next, the create, we're going to leave it empty, because create and edit, these are front facing forms which require the user to type. And of course, this is when, for example, you have a front-end application. In other words, you're using a front-end language like React or Vue to create forms and all that. So we're going to leave it empty. So the next one you're going to have is the store. And within the store here, we are going to define several things. So one of them is going to be, we're going to define this variable here, then we are going to pass it. So basically here, what we want to do here is that we want to create a request all. Basically, this means that we want to create a new book. So this is what this code does. And then down there, we are going to return a response. So we're going to return a response, a JSON response, which is going to say 201. 201 basically means that it's successful, and you can see here 201 means it has been created, and this is important for when you're creating your APIs. The next one here that we're going to do is now the show. So here show, we can show a book, but before we show a book, we should be able to do some things. For example, we can here we're going to say book, then this is equals to the book model, and then we're going to find the book by ID. So that's what we're going to do. And then here we're going to pass an if statement, which is going to check if the book is available. So here we're going to say if book is found. If book is not found, because this sign is this exclamation mark basically means that if the book is not available or can't be found, then we return a response, which is going to be return a JSON response, which is going to be something like this. So let me give something which is better. So here we're going to say message, and then within this message here we are going to say book. Going to have book not found, like this, and then we close this one like this inside that, and then this one is, so the message is also like that. Right, so that is what we have, and then the 404 is going to remain as it is. So that is what you're going to have. Now, if the book is available, then you're going to return the book like that. So that's what basically this part of the code does. As I've said, the edit is a front-facing part of your application, so you don't need to update it with anything. So let's go to the update part of this application. So the update part is that you're going to have book, which is equals to the book model. So here we're going to find the book by ID, and what we're going to do here, we're going to say if book is not found, just like we did above here on the show method, we are also going to do the same thing. So what you're going to do here is that you're going to return a response JSON of the book is not found. That is because you are trying to update the book, but as you are trying to update the book, if you don't find the ID, and then down here you're going to have book, and then here you're going to call this function here, which is going to update request all, meaning that update the book, and then return a response, that is return a response, yeah. So we return a JSON response with the book 200, which 200 basically means that the status is okay and the book has been updated successfully. So that is what we have. So the request all is basically we are requesting all the details of this book, and then we update that book. Now the last one here we're going to do here is that we need now to delete that book. So the first thing we're going to do here is find the book by ID. So if the book is not found, you already know what you need to do. But if we find the book, then you're going to delete that book. In other words, by finding the ID, and then we return this response which shows the book has been deleted. Right, so that is what we have. So the next thing, we save this, and that is all we need within our book controller. So let's go to our API routes, and what we'll do here is that we need to add a route resource, and this is what you're going to have. So we're going to have a resource like this, and then inside that resource we're going to have is this is what you're going to have. We're not going to have this. So basically here we are going to have book controller, which is this one class, and then here now, as I told you here, is that let's check our book control again. You can see here we don't have anything within our create, as well as we don't have anything within our edit. As I told you, these are forms, and you can even see from the comment here it is showing you that show the form for editing. So this is just for showing a form, this one is for showing a form for creating, so we don't need to have them. So going back to our API routes is that what we are going to say, except like this, create and edit, because we don't want them to be ran. Remember, route resource, what it does is that it's going to render all the CRUD functionality within your book controller. So it is, instead of us writing, for example, route, something like route, and then here we have route get, and then within our get, you see now here we say get, for example, book / ID book, the show method, then we go to the index method. For example, here we also get to have something like this. So you can see here we don't need to have this. So all this, it is laborious. It's when we keep doing this. So the route resource, we just undo all that. So basically that is what we have so far. And you can see now, for example, using our book controller, if we try now, for example, to request all the books within our API from our database, for example, now if I come here using the get request, and I try to send an request here to our database, you can see here this. Okay, so there's a BookController does not exist. Okay, so we need to go to API. So here we need to import this. So import all classes. Let me close that one. So you need to import that one. So this is what is missing here. And we can do this again. Class app API controller book not found. Let's just check this. Okay, so we know what we have is this. This is what we have. So let's go back to the book controller. Let's see if. Okay, so here we also need to import the model. That is one thing. And let's also import all the classes. Okay, so we also need to import this class here. Need to import this one like that. Okay, so let's run this again and let's see after importing all that. You can see it is returning an empty array. Basically, this means that there is nothing within our database so far because we already know this is what we have. So there's nothing here. Right, now there's something else you need to understand before we go further is that when you look at this table here is that you can see we have method, we have URL, action, and route name. The get.index, for example, it's the method. So it basically means that we are identifying this method here, which is this one here, public function index, and then of course it returns for us all the books. So the URL is going to be /books. However, when you use the API.php routes, because you're using the route resource, you can see that you can't see it well because this one is just loading for us all the URLs for this book controller, which is the CRUD, the entire CRUD. So that is the URL here /books, and then the action of course is index, and then the route name as you can see. Now the next one is get, which is now the /books create. So this one is now, so the method is get, and then of course we want to create, and of course we don't have create because as I told you so far we are only dealing with API from the backend. So once you create a front end, that is when you now attach your APIs with your front end application, then you're able to do this. So we also have post, which is going to book.stores, and what we know here is that we have the method, we have the URL, and then the action, and then the route name, like that, and then the rest of the APIs as you can see them there. So I just wanted you to know this. For example, when you talk about /books, then on the curly braces we append the book, it means that we want to get a specific book, for example, so to either to edit, update, or either delete. So you need to know that is very important. All right, now let's go ahead and test our bookstore API. All right, now let's go ahead and test our APIs, and what you're going to do here is that we are going to test the APIs. So what we can do here, the first thing we did here is that we are able to send a get request, and we saw an empty array. Now let's do the one for post, and this is what you're going to do. So what we're going to do here is very simple, and we are going to change this one to, so this method here, we're going to change it to post. And once we change it to post, what we need to do, because now here we need to create a new book. So this one is going to remain as it is. So go to your body, and then within your body here, you're going to select row. So body, then select row, and then here, the option here should be, you're supposed to select JSON like this. So once you have that one set, I want you to get this data. So here we have title, we have author, ISBN of the book, and then the price. Remember, these are the column free fields that we have within our table books. So this just the same thing. So once you have that one insert, you can click send with the post method being in place, and let's see what is going to happen. Add title fillable to, okay, so we forgot something here. So we forgot something, so let's just go to the book. Remember, the models is the one that interact with your database, so we forgot to allow the mass assignment that is under the protected fillable. So yeah, so we should be having something like this. So basically what this means is that we want to protect our table from being hacked, or have what we call the SQL injection, whereby somebody can input a data field that we did not require. So title of the ISBN, that is what we have, and the price, that's only what we have within our book model. So your table is only going to accept this. That is it. So that this error is the mass assignment. We need to have that. So let's go ahead and submit this again, and you can see now here we already have this created, the title, and then of course it's been returned in JSON format. We can also come here and browse, and you can see this is what we have so far. So what else can we do now? Here, since we have now added, we can also go ahead and add, for example, let me change the price here. Sorry, this is then remember we said the ISBN is unique. So here, for example, let me put 4, and then let's change the order of this book. Let me write my name here, and for example, the book would be something like, so let's say programming in PHP, like that, and then I send this request again, and you can see now another book has been created. So let's create one more. Sorry, let me just, yeah, so let me create one more. So for example, here I can change this to programming in C, and then change the ISBN number. The price, I can change it to that one, and that's what we have. Did I send it? Okay. Okay, so this is saying duplicate entry. Okay, so did I change the ISBN? I think I did not change. So let me change that one to 5, and let me run this again. Okay, so the book has been created, and that is what we have so far. All right, now what we can do is that we can get a single book. So for example, I can go to get, and then here I append an ID of a particular book. So let's say book 4. So get, and then book 4 here, and then I send that request. So here I can get a specific book, and you can see that is the specific book that we have within our database, which is programming in C. So that is something you need to know. Another thing you can do is with this, you can also update, and of course this is using the put. So put, and then for example, if it's 4, and then here let's say I change this to C++, and this, and maybe I change the price to 20.99, and then I send this request like that. So what will happen is that this book is going to be updated, and when I reload this, you can see the book has been updated as follows. All right, so that is on just the simple CRUD that you can do within your application. The other thing you can do here is of course delete this book. So if I wanted to delete this book, I just need to identify the ID of the book and then delete it, and you can see the message which is being returned is book deleted, because we already know from our BookController under the destroy method, you can see here this is what we should be returned with the book deleted. and then the status code is okay here. Then that's how you test your APIs when you are creating them. Right, so now in the next step, we need now to handle the authentication and authorization. So let's get started. Okay, now let's look at authentication and authorization, and let's start with authentication itself. So for us to use authentication, we are going to use what we call the Laravel Sanctum, which is a fantastic solution for API authentication. So this is how we are going to do it. So the first thing we're going to do here is that I'll head over to the terminal here, and let me just have this. So what we're going to do here, the first thing you need to do is to install the Sanctum. That is if you don't have it, but mostly with Laravel application, that is with Laravel 10, you already have it installed by default. So you should be having, but that is the command you need to run to install it. Once you have it installed, you need to publish the vendor. You need to publish, that is, you need to have this this PHP artisan, then vendor, and then here you're going to have vendor, then publish, and then the flag here. And now here you're going to provide a provider here, whereby you're going to say this is equals to, and then of course here you're going to publish that is slash sanctum, then this is slash sanctum, and then service provider. So I did not really have to type all this, but you just need to publish that. And you can even look at this one from their documentation here when you go to Laravel documentation. So you can find Laravel documentation, and if you click on their documentation, you can also see the Laravel Sanctum. So Laravel Sanctum. So here they will guide you on how you need to install the Sanctum. You can see here we have, so let's see, installation part. So this is how you need to do it, unless it has changed with Laravel 11, but this is how you need to have it. So you just need to follow the installation and you're good to go. But I'll leave you with the documentation whereby you can be able to check out and see how to install it. So once you have it installed here, so the next thing you need to do is to go to you need to type the command php artisan migrate, and then you're going to migrate that. In other words, you're going to create the migrations. So that is it. And then once you have that installed, you can now begin modifying your user model. So for example, if I take this one out, now when you go to the user model here, you need to include this use as API tokens, because you're going to allow the use of the tokens, just as I showed you on this. So this is the use of the tokens here. So you're going to allow that, and then once that is done, you can now we can now go to this. So there's something that we need to do here. We need to add a role within the users table. You can see the users table before I go there. Now within the protected fillable, you can see we have name, email, and password. And when we go to our table, and then we go to my bookstore database, and then let's go to the users table here. You can see we have this is what we have. Now within this table here, I want to add a role, which is going to be the role for either the person is a user or is an admin. This is what I basically mean. And what I need to do here is that I need to add a column. So I'm going to say PHP artisan make migration, and you're going to say add role. So underscore role, and then a column, like this. So we are going to add that column to then underscore users underscore table, like that. So that is what we have, and then I hit enter. So the role column is going to be added. In other words, this migration is going to be created, and then I can now add my column. So within this table here, we are going to add this string, which is the role, which is string, and then default user. Default user basically means that by default, when we register and log in a user, by default is going to be a user, before of course we indicate if we want that user to be an admin. So by default is going to be that way. So I save this, and once I do that one, going back to my terminal again, I need to run PHP artisan migrate like this, and basically it's going to migrate that role. In other words, that migration, and you can see here the role column has been added here. All right, so we have that, and then the next thing we need to do, because we have added a new field, we also need to add it within the protected fillable, which handles the mass assignment. So we need to have that one included, and then now once we do that, now we can go ahead and create API routes for our authentication. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create the routes that we need. So we need to head over to, we need to go to api.php, and down here what we need to do here is that I need to begin, and this is how I begin. So here we're going to have prefix. So the prefix is that one, and then inside this prefix we are going to have the out, which is that one. Then the out is going to be group. Inside it we have a function, and within this function you're going to have is this. So here we have, so what you're going to have different endpoints. One of them is going to be something like this. So the first one is going to be, so this is what we have in. So we have in okay, so the first thing we're going to have is route, and within our route here we have post. Inside post we're going to have /register, and then we need to have we are going to have out controller class, which should be that one, and which is going to the register. So the next one you're going to have is for login, which is going to be that one, and then we're also going to have for logout, and for the logout you're going to have is the logout, and then we have middleware sanctum. This means that this middleware is going to be protected route. In other words, you're going to protect this route. That's why we append the out sanctum, just to ensure that our part is authenticated before the person logs out. So that is what we have. So we have the register, the login, and then the logout, and that's what we have so far. All right. Now, once we have that one, the next thing we need to do is to come here on my terminal. And within my terminal here, let me just clear this. So here I'm going to run PHP artisan, and this is going to be make controller. And here we're going to have just the same folder that we had. And inside that folder, we are going to create the controller like that. Then we hit enter. Now we can close this and then now go to out controller, the one we have just created, which is this one here. Remember, it is under the API folder. Now within this controller here, is the one that is handling the login, the register, and so forth. So we can begin here. The first method that we're going to create is the public function, which is going to be register. Then sorry, this is register. Then inside there we're going to have, let me see what we have here so far. This can work with this, and then just edit some few things. So the first thing we're going to do here is we have what we call basic validation or incoming data. So that's what we have. So here, actually, we don't need to have this actually. Okay, so let me just edit here. So what we have here is we have validator, which is like this, which is equal to validator, then request all. So here we are using the validator class. Then this is now the object from which we are creating this class. And then now inside it, we are going to request, for example, the name, required string. I'm also going to add something else here. I'm going to say max 255. The email is going to be required. I'm also going to add before the unique users here, I'm also going to add the max, which is also 255. And then I have something like that. The email itself is also going to be a string. So also I'm going to have a string, and then here I need to have this one that way. The password is going to be confirmed, but what I'm going to have is password string, and then I'm going to have min of 8 like that. And then here I'm going to add another field here. This field here is going to be role, which is going to be required string in admin and then the user. Basically here is that we ensure the role field is included and it is valid. And basically that's what we have here so far. Okay, so this needs to be that way, and then we close that one like that. Okay, now once you have that set, the next thing we need to do here is we need to have, that is what we need to do is, so what we need to do is if the validation fails, then we are going to return an error response. And of course, what we have here is if validator fails, remember we are now calling this object from this class, and we are now asserting if the validation is going to fail, then we're going to return a response, which is the JSON. And then here, inside here, we're going to pass the JSON, and then here I'm going to say error, and then this is going to be that way, and then this is going to be not 400, this is going to be 422, which is going to return the validation error message like that. All right, so that is what we have. There's something here. Since this is error we added, we need to add this, and then here I need to close this one on this part here like that. All right, so that is what we have so far. Now the next thing we need to do here is we don't need this. Now if it goes all well, now we can go ahead and create a new user. And for us to create a new user here, we are going to have something like this, whereby we are going to create the user object from the user class, and then we are going now to pass this request name, email, and then this password is going to be, we're going to say hash, and then here we're going to hash the password for security purposes, and then here we're also going to request a role if the person is, so here this basically means if is an admin or user. Remember that will have indicated it on the time of creation. Now if this one is successful, then we can go ahead and generate a token for the user. So here we're going to say return response like this, JSON response, which is going to be JSON response like this. So inside that we're going to have token, and then here we're going to say user create token, then the out token, then this token is going to be plain text. Remember, this is what I'm talking about. You can see from what we have here. So that is what the kind of token we are creating. It's a plain text token, but this is not the end. Now what we're going to do here is we are going to append message like this, which is going to say message user registered successfully. Then we append the 201, which basically means you already know 201 is created the status code. So that is what we have. So we just flash that to the user. Okay, so that is our register method, and we can go ahead and do this. So for example, here this is going to be a post request. Remember, we already have our API. Remember, this is already there, so the request is post. So we can go ahead and do this. So what we're going to do here is the prefix. This is APIs, then slash the prefix we used here. You can see here is out. So this is the prefix. This is the prefix here. So let's go ahead and do that. So this is going to be slash register like this. And then, so this is what we have. So the post, and then here we need to go to the body. Then within the body, we need to go to the row. So this is what we need to have. So this is the data that I'm going to have. So for example, this is what I'm going to have. For now, let's create a normal user before we come to create admin. So here I'm going to have a user, and then here we're going to have a normal user like that. So we're going to have that, and then let's go ahead and do this. So let's send that request. Target class out controller does not exist. I think I did not import this. So I need to have this imported. These classes, they are not normally imported automatically. Let's see what else do we need here. See what else we need here. So we also need to have the model for user model, and also the hash. Yeah, so the hash and also the validator, we also need to have it like that. This is very important. So we can go ahead and do that request again. And you can see the user has been registered, and then the token is generated successfully. If we check this one within our database, we can go to users, and you can see the normal user has been created, and the role is user, as you can see. All right, so that is what we have there. So now the next one we need to do is to create the method. The method we need to create is the login method. So here we can do that quickly. So here we have login. So login, and then here we're going to pass request, and then here we have requests. So here the first thing we're going to do here is we are going to validate the incoming data, and then here we're going to request all, that is, we request the email, the password, and then here what we're going to do next is if the validation fails, you're going to return an error response, which is this one here, because the idea is still the same. The idea is still the same. And then here we're going to find the user. So what does this part mean? Here we are finding a user with a specific email that we already have within our database. And you can see, for example, this one here is user@example.com. That means we are finding a user with this specific email. And then we also check, does the password, the plain text password, match the password which is stored on the database, which is the user password. The password is the one on the database. Request password is the one that the user is typing at the time of login. If they don't match, then we say this is invalid credential, or they are invalid credentials, simply. And then basically we generate a token for the user, and we say user logged in successfully, and we return that as well. So the before we go there, we can do a test. We already know what the password is. So this is what we know we already have. So here we have user, and then here we remove the name because we only need these two. And then here we need to change this to login like this. And then the request is going to be, the request you're sending is post, and we can go ahead and do this. Let me see if I've saved this or not saved this. Okay, so let's do this. So let's send the request, and you can see now the request is successful. The user is logged in with this token here. Now what you can do is that you can use this token here by copying it and using it on authorization, so that now what the app will do is that is able to know this user, which parts of the application can the user be able to navigate to. And we are going to look at authorization. So let's just finish up on this authentication. Okay, so the other one here is public function, which is going to log us out of this application. Here we're going to request the user with the current access token. We are going to request the current access token and then delete it, and then we're going to return a response message which is successful. That is, the user is logged out successfully. So that is it. And for us to do this, we need to ensure we copy this token. Remember, we are accessing the current token, so we don't have this. We're going to copy that one and paste it there. And then here, we are going to call this endpoint here, which is the out logout with the current access token, and then the user is going to be logged out successfully. Right, so that is what we have so far. Now let's go ahead and do the authorization. Now, authorization is enabling the user to access different parts of your application. So far, what we have done is now authentication. So we can go ahead and do now the authorization, whereby we have the admin and user. Admin is able to access, for example, when we come to your api.php, and then we come to this part here, we see we have this route resource. It means that, for example, this one, we are going to enable admin to access this part only, and then the user can access other different parts of the application. Right, so now what we can do is let's go ahead and create a middleware, because middleware in Laravel are easy to do, and they're the ones which will enable us to implement the authorization. So here, what we're going to do here, we're going to create PHP artisan make, and then this is going to be middleware like this. And then the middleware name is check role, and then I hit enter. So that middleware is created successfully, and I can go ahead and close this and then hit Control P and then look for that check role middleware. So it's just checking the role. For example, is the person a user or is he an admin? So within this undo method here, before the controller, before the user or the admin is able to access the controller, the undo method is the first point of contact. So that's what you need to know. And then once we have implemented the logic here, we can now allow the user to access the next request, which should be now access, for example, the book controller, the BookController CRUD. So that is what we have there so far. Okay, so now what are the different logic that you're going to implement? So this is what you're going to implement here. So where we have the request and then the closure next, I'm going to add a line of code here. And this line of code here is going to, I'm going to add what we call a splat operator within PHP. And this splat operator here is going to have this variable which is called roles. The roles part here is now checking the different roles, that is the user or the admin. And then the other part here that I'm going to do here is this is what I'm going to do. So here I'm going to have check if the user is authenticated, check if the user is authenticated and has the required role. So that is what we are doing. So that's the logic here. So here what we're going to do is I'm going to use if not in array. If not in array, this is what we have. Let me just edit this. So if not in array, we request the user role, and then the roles, of course, if the user is an admin or not, and then we return the response that is, let me change the method here to error, which basically means unauthorized, and then return the forward read. Forward read basically means forbidden. So here, this basically means forbidden. He can't be able to access that part of our application. And that's the middleware logic we have so far. If he's able to, he passes, then here we're going to say, if the user is authenticated and has the required role, continue with the request. And then, of course, here is able to access our book controller. And it's as simple as that. Now, let's go ahead and register this middleware. So we need to register the middleware. So let's go to kernel app HTTP. This is where we register. So this is okay. So we need to do it here. So here what we need to do is we need to add the check role, which is the one that we created, and that is what we have, check role middleware. All right, so another thing you need to know is that, just going back to the checkrole.php middleware, is that the in array is a method which checks if the authenticated user's role exists within the allowed roles. In other words, in array is used to check for multiple instances within your PHP attributes. Okay, so that is it. And once you have that one set, the next thing we need to do is go to api.php. And what we need to do here is that you can see we have this route resource here. So what I'm going to do here is we have the Laravel Sanctum, which is this one here. This is the global one, which we can use to just for the normal user. But here I need to add another one. So here I'm going to add what we call the main only routes, like that. And here I'm going to have a route, and then this route is going to be middleware. And then inside I'm going to have something. So this is what I'm going to have. So I'm going to pass the middleware we have just created, and what I'm going to append here is admin. So basically this means that the admin is able to access the route resource. So here I'm going to have a group function. So inside there we're going to have group function like this, and then the routes which are accessible by the admin. So we don't need to have this. So let me remove this. So we only have this is the routes. So I'm going to copy this from where it is, and then I'm going to paste this one here. These are the routes which the admin is able to access. This is going to be that way, and then let's see what else we need. So this is going to be that way. And basically what we mean is that this is route accessible only by admins, like that. And one of these routes, of course, these routes could be, for example, we have post/books. So that's what we have. And the other one, of course, this could be put. So put basically means, for example, /books, and then here we pass the ID, for example, of that book. And then another one would be delete, like that, which would be /books and then ID. So these are the routes which are accessible by the admin. And remember, all these are handled by this route resource we are talking about here. So the middleware is check role and then admin. Then that's what we have there. Right. So that is it. And we can also group. Actually, we can, I can take this one, as you can see here. Let me take this one from there. And what I'm going to do here is just down here, I'm going to paste this one here. And then I'm going to take this one out, place it there, and then this one, paste it there. What this basically means is that we have on top here, we have what we call the global authentication for API routes, like that. And then inside there, we only have the admin routes. Yeah, the admin routes, as you can see, there are those ones. Let me just paste this one a little bit, like that. So when we talk about global authentication, basically this means that this one is just, for example, when we come here and access /user like this, and the method here is get, change this to get, and then I send that request. So the route user, the user, sorry, we don't have this. Sorry, what we have here is, this is like this. And you can see this is showing unauthenticated because we already logged out of this application. Remember that we did that. So basically this just, what it will do is that when I'm logged in, I'm able, as a normal user, I'm able to access that API. So I can see the users, the normal users within that database. So that is what I'm able to see there. But now let's go ahead and log in as a normal user, just like we did before. So we already know that user is already. So let's go ahead and log in as a normal user. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to the body tab. This is what we have so far. And then this request here is post. And then I'm going to send this like this. So this is what we have. And then I'm going to copy this token. Then I go to authorization and I'm going to paste that token there. So this is what, now this is the normal user. Now, since now we are logged in within this application and we already know this user is just a normal user. Now let's go ahead and try to access different parts of this application. For example, let's check how many books are there. This should be get. So we send that one as a normal user. It's showing, oh sorry, this is the prefix is out. So let's try. Sorry, this is what are we doing? This is API then /books, not out. It could not be found. Let me check. Okay, so the error for API/books not found is just a typo here. So where I copy this global authentication for API routes, this is basically getting a user, that is basically authenticating a user, whereby we have the sanctum. So here this doesn't need to be, so this one needs to be different. So this needs to be group, and then inside here I'm going to check out that one, and then inside I'm going to have a function like that, and then here we're going to have that. Now inside this one, because this is middleware out sanctum, then the group function, inside it I'm going to have the route like this, and then this route is going to be get user function and then request, and then within that request inside it is when now we're going to have this. Then of course here what I can do is I can close this one like that, and then basically that's what we have. So the middleware out sanctum is a group function, so whereby we are now adding this one for the normal user, and then for the admin only is going to be that. So this should be that way. All right, so once we have that one, what I can do here, we are just now, we copy the token, and the normal user is now trying to access different parts of your application. So let's see what happens here. You can see it is going to be unauthorized because he's just a normal user. He is unable to access different parts. If he tries to access, for example, he wants to get a book by an ID, then he's going to be unauthorized. So what we need to do here is to enable the user to access different parts of your application. We need now to create an admin, and this is how you're going to do it. So this is how you're going to do it, and you're going to take out that one. I'm going to take out that one, and then I'm going to have this name, admin, email, password, and then the role. I need you to take note of this part here. The role is admin. So here is that we are now going to register an admin. So that means here I need to go to API, and then the prefix is out, and then register is the person, we are registering this person. So the method here is going to be post, and then I'm going to send this request. And you can see the user is registered successfully. We can investigate that one when we reload this, and you can see here, and then the role now is an admin. So let's see what the admin can now do. So we can now log in the admin, and we only need to take out this one and also the name, because the login only has email and password. And what you need to do, we need to change this one to login like this. So we are now going to send this request, and you can see the admin is logged in. This is now the token, and we copy that token, we go to the authorization, and then we paste this token like that. Now this admin can now be able to access different parts of your application, for example get, and yeah, so let's do this. And you can see now he's able to access the different parts of your application. He can access, for example, I don't know if we have book 4. I think book 4 was deleted. I think we have book 2. Yeah, so this is it. And of course you can also create. So for example, here we can have a post, and here on the body we can do some creation. Let me see if I can copy this and paste here. As what am I doing? Okay, so this is ID. We remove the ID, remove this one because they are auto generated by the table. So here what we have here is, let's say 16, the ISBN here is say 0, programming in say in Python, like this, right? So this is post, and yeah, so let's send this request and see. And so the request is, sorry, this is slash. Okay, so he's created, he has been created, and of course we can see this one within our books table, and that is it. Right, guys, so that is it. So that is it on developing an API from scratch for bookstore. So I believe you have got something, and please go ahead and like this video, subscribe to this channel, share this video to your friends, and let me see you in the next video.